Hey guys, more Torcus here. So in this video, we're going to be checking out Nasus, one of the new Shurima champions that is coming to Legends of Runeterra with the Empires of the Ascended expansion. He is looking pretty sweet, and we're going to check it out, and let's just dive right in and do some card reviews. So he is a 6-mana 2/2 fearsome. Clearly not the best stat line, but good thing he has this, which is I have +1/+1 for each unit you've slain this game. So slaying is effectively if your card kills something, it's a slay. If you strike something, if you deal damage to something, or if you directly kill something, all of those things will count as a slay. When you strike for 10 plus damage with Nasus, he will level up. That means that you will need at least 8 slays or some other means of buffing him to make that happen. And most of the time I feel like it's going to be him attacking into your opponent for that to be how he levels up. When he does level up, he gains Spell Shield, and your enemies have -1 attack. So him having Fearsome, obviously your opponent having less attack means that he might be able to hit the Nexus unopposed, whereas it might have been slightly more difficult before. You know, the Fearsome, very good on the initial body, but here the power of the fearsome increases substantially. Not to mention your opponent's damage output drastically goes down when you're able to do this. But most particularly, him having Spell Shield is super powerful because it gives you access to a very good atrocity target, since your opponent can't stop you from doing it. And given that he's already got great synergy with Shadow Isles, because they can do lots of slaying, no problem, it will make a lot of sense. Then his third level up is obviously the Restoring the Sun Disk. That is how all the level 3s work with these Ascendeds. And then he's a 10/10, and enemies have -3 attack. So by then, you know, that's +7 to his stats. He's going to be an absolute monster of a unit. And your opponents will basically not be able to use their units to attack with anything, and will almost certainly not be able to block the Nasus. They will need to have 6+ attack in order to still be able to block him. So by then, you have a pretty good chance of being able to just hit the Nexus easy peasy. And, I mean, given that the level 3s are kind of supposed to be into the game, seems pretty good to me. So, as I said, I think he's mostly going to be paired with Shadow Isles. I think the level 3 form is probably not going to happen through him striking and actually leveling himself normally. I think it's going to be through the 7-mana slow spell that Shurima has for leveling up their Ascended champions, which is good that he has such a good base stat line for that situation, since I don't think he will have gotten to slay very much in a mono Shurima deck. But in a Shadow Isles deck, you will be able to slay a lot of stuff, absolutely, and then you will be able to atrocity with the Nasus straight to the face for your lethal. And I think that will be a very solid game plan. I think the whole fearsome idea in Shurima will probably, you'll have a fast variant and a slower variant. And maybe even with Nasus, you'll have a full control variant where it's mostly planning on slaying your opponent's stuff, but definitely slaying a little bit of your own stuff along the way, just because you do need to make sure that if your opponent's playing really slow, that you won't end up with no slays at all. And he certainly has some hardcore synergy with Undying, because killing your own stuff works for Slay, and you'll never really run out of fodder for that if you have Undying around. So he seems pretty powerful. I think it's very possible that the slaying might be harder than people realize. I think it might be harder to get Nasus online than people think. But once he does get rolling, the game's going to end real quick after that happens. I think him and Kindred will definitely make a cool deck, but I don't think he necessarily needs to be with her. I think he does need to be with Shadow Owls if you're not doing the mono Shurima Sundis deck. And that's fine because Shadow Owls has lots of support for it. But that's definitely going to be the main place you're going to see him, and definitely paired with Atrocity 90% of the time. And I think when that happens, he's going to be a pretty solid unit. Nasus is also super hushable because, you know, he's a 2/2 when he's been hushed. If you have to go in for an attack against the Targon deck, it's going to be really scary because you might just get hushed and then your Nasus is just out of commission. You're never getting that level up with the spell shield and whatnot. So you're going to have to try to find a situation where you get an easy strike, and that might be hard to do. You might have to use his champ spell, or you might have to hit a very small unit by giving it vulnerable or whatever. I don't think he's going to be one of the strongest champions in the set, but he'll definitely be quite good, I'm sure. And his champ spell is Siphoning Strike, 5 mana slow speed, and ally strikes a unit. If it dies, grant allied champions everywhere +2/+2. So this reminds me a lot of Wild Claws, which I've been playing a lot of lately, trying to make it work. The thing about Wild Claws is I was trying very hard to make it a burn card to some degree. Like, it does the overwhelm damage when you pair it with an overwhelm unit. So you kind of try to get it striking something smaller and doing a lot of face damage. But even when you're just using it as a striking tool, it felt pretty awkward. You never really felt like it hit very well. But that was in a archetype where you're generally playing a little bit faster, not having as much spell mana around. I think this makes more sense in a slower deck for sure. I think if you are playing any sort of like tempo oriented stuff, it's really not going to work as well. Not to mention, you're going to need pretty big units for you to get decent value out of this. It's not like Concerted Strike. Concerted Strike in Demacia, for one, it's fast, and for two, you get to hit with two things. Adding up two things stats to take out one bigger thing is a big impact on that card's viability, and the speed of it, of course. I think using this will be much more awkward, not to mention how fizzleable it is. Beyond that, the payoff is good, but it's not like the best thing in the world. But yeah, it'll be okay. Alright, on to the followers. We have Bakai Reaper. 1 mana, 1/2 fearsome. When I slay a unit, grant me +1/+0. This seems like a very solid, aggressive, fearsome attacker. Playing this on 1, it will continue to grow throughout the game. We already see the Precious Pet in Nasus being a successful 1-drop. It is a 2-1 that has Fearsome. Getting 1 Slay off shouldn't be a problem at all. Even if you don't get that extra damage on turn 1, you will get more damage down the line without a doubt. And having the extra health is also very relevant. So I think this could get totally out of control. There's a lot of decks where they might be forced into very awkward situations because of the fact that they do need to figure out some way to get something down to block this. And that might not be as easy as you might think. So I think it's going to be a staple for any aggressive, fearsome decks. We've already had some of those in the past, not long ago, with like Elise and Callista. I can see that coming back because we are getting quite a bit of fearsome support, and this is one of the best ones we're going to be seeing for sure. You don't really need to slay very much for this to be worth. Then we have Rampaging Bakai, 5 mana, 4/6 Overwhelm. Play if you've slain 4+ units this game, an enemy and I strike each other. So the play effect is a little hard to get off. You do have to have some synergy in your deck to make sure that the slays happen. If you don't have a bunch of slaying going on early, then this probably won't trigger on curve. And looking at it, you know, it at first glance, the card without the play effect looks decent. But you got to remember that in Freljord, we have the 5 mana 4/5 Overwhelm and Regen, and you would think that having the 1 extra health wouldn't actually be that much better than the Regen. It is pretty substantial, but overall, I'd say the play effect is going to be pretty important for you to care about this. You're getting a free single combat, and then after that, you'll be able to take out like something like you know, you could take out a 5/4 and still have a 4/1 Overwhelm on your board, and you know, that's why the health is definitely good, that it's pretty high in that situation. And you can still push some damage with the remaining body, even if it did take quite a chunk of damage in the combat. But yeah, in a dedicated Slay deck, I think you should be able to get this off pretty often when you need to on turn 5. And being able to push some Overwhelm damage is pretty nice. The Overwhelm might not be that relevant. It might be more just the sake of it's slaying another thing for you. It's working as removal, and you have a body afterwards, which is very, very nice. And then this is the Sanctum Conservator, 8 mana, fearsome, 8/5, and play. If you have slain 13+ units this game, kill all enemy followers and then summon a copy of me. So as I said, I don't think slain is super easy to pull off. It takes a while to get that ball rolling. Turn 8, it is very unlikely that you're going to get this off unless you're basically clearing your opponent's aggro board constantly. And even then, you might still not get it off on time. So this is probably not coming down on 8. If it does come down, though, it doesn't kill champions, but it kills all the followers, and the champions that do remain, if any, are still going to have to contend with 2 8/5 fearsome units, which at that point you're basically able to push for the end of the game. So I could see 1 copy of these being run in some of these slower controlier Slay decks. if you're doing any sort of moderately fast Slay archetype, it's definitely not going to make it in there. And you're probably not going to run more than one copy of this ever. But if you have one copy of this, it could be a total blowout in some games. And I think for that reason, it's worth to have one copy sometimes. And we'll see how often it goes off, how hard it is to pull off, how late in the game it ends up happening. Because it might be possible that, like, you just don't get this out till, like, turn 12 or something most of the time. And if that's the case and the game generally doesn't go that late and the game is in a faster meta, then you're just going to end up taking him out because you don't need him for the value. It's not worth it for how much you're sacrificing your win rate in other matchups. So overall, very cool idea, very cool concept. Maybe one of. We have our spells here. This one is Spirit Fire, 7 mana burst spell. Give enemies -2, -0, and round end deal 2 to me this round. So the text round end deal 2 to me got added to the card. That means that they will when the round ends, they will be doing the damage to themselves. I don't believe this will count as a slay necessarily. I'm not sure because the card itself should be what's killing it. But this did give the card the text, so it's hard to tell exactly how that would work. But the ability to effectively stop your opponent's attack in its tracks, as long as, you know, there's some wide board strategy that has, like, not too much attack on each enemy, and then clear it all out afterwards, is really, really sweet. It's like a debuff that makes sure that you make it through the open attack, followed by an avalanche in retaliation after the attack. And I really, really like that. Against discard aggro, this just, like, totally blows them right out of the water because they go really wide. Most of their stuff is 2-ish attack. Like, the remaining damage wouldn't be very much. You're probably dropping off all of them by 2, so that's like 12 health you're saving yourself. So absolutely, in that case, it's going to be amazing. I also think there's a definite case for using it in a fearsome deck so that you can do an open attack. You pay 7, and then all of your fearsomes are certain to be able to do their thing. With spell mana, that could be done quite early. You could do it as early as turn 4, which you're not going to end up doing. But maybe if turn 5, turn 6, you end up doing this, and you will have enough of a board that you could end the game off of it. By then, having 4 or less attack on all their units is not entirely unlikely. So it's a lot better than the other card that we saw, which was the 4 mana reduced their attack by -2 at slow speed, because the burst lets you actually open attack and still do this, which is great. So I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know if it's gonna be too expensive for a, like, aggressive fearsome deck, or maybe we're gonna have, like, mid-range fearsome decks, and then this will certainly have a higher likelihood of working. But certainly in a defensive, control-y strategy, this seems really, really great against aggro, and it'll certainly be good there. And you can even use it as a combat trick when your opponent goes in to start doing blocks and whatnot, you can, drop all of their attack by 2 and then trade out with them if they thought they were having a good value trade. Maybe that extra 2 damage at the end of the turn ends up killing them off when they didn't expect it. I think it's very, very strong card. We have Rite of Calling, 0 mana, slow speed spell. Kill an ally or destroy one of your mana gems to draw a champion. So in these Slay type decks, this will be great for drawing Kindred or Nasus. And outside of that, you should probably still be able to kill off one of your things here or there. The ability to play a 0 mana tutor a champion out of your deck is so strong. It really benefits like all-in champion decks where you just run lots of stuff to keep your champion alive and commit a lot of resources towards them. And, being able to use it with the mana gem is sometimes going to matter because sometimes your kill an ally will get fizzled. So it's better to do the gem, and sometimes later in the game where your mana gem isn't very valuable anymore. So this card's definitely going to be in some decks. Absolutely. There's no way that this doesn't get run in the Slay decks. And any deck that really cares to be tutoring their champion will certainly be running this in there. I think it'll be probably a very popular card. Even though it is slow, I don't think that's going to matter. You can potentially spend all of your mana on all kinds of other stuff for the first part of your turn. And then do this at the end of the turn after everything else has already happened and you've already dealt with all the problems that are going to be given to you that turn. And then there's like no real drawback. Like the speed of the spell doesn't matter if your opponent's already done playing and you're already done with everything else you wanted to do. And that's the benefit of a 0-cost spell. It's amazing. Then we have Weight of Judgment. 4 mana, slow speed, deal 2 to a champion or 7 to a follower. So 2 to a champion is normally... I mean, it's clearly very bad for 4 mana. It's not going to matter too much. You can kill TF with it, but all the TF decks have generally a pretty decent ability to stop them from dying to a 2 damage. And this is a big commitment for you to not actually kill your target as well. 7 to a follower is really good, but you might not always need it. 7 is probably more than necessary in most cases. I don't feel like you run into a ton of followers that have 7 health. I feel like if it did 3 to a champion and 6 to a follower, I would be more interested, because then you could hit a lot of champions have 3 health. And the 7 isn't important enough, so 6 would probably do you enough good there on that front. Even then, though, I don't think it's that great. I don't think you're going to want to run this card. Even, like, it's like Unworthy from the other video. I don't think even in a follower-heavy meta, you'd probably still not care too much about running something like this. It just seems like way too weak in the champion end of it, for sure. Champions are very important in the game right now. We don't have too much like hardcore follower synergy decks. Then our last card is a 2 mana slow speed spell, Ruinous Path. Draw 1. If you've slain a unit this round, drain 2 from the enemy Nexus. So it draws a card. It's not really going to make too much sense in a slower deck. I think it might be worth in a aggressive deck that needs some, like, burn finisher. Like, obviously, it's worse than Doom Beast because Doom Beast gives you the body. But you'd probably run this in, like, that aggressive, fearsome Slay deck that I mentioned, the alternative to the slower fearsome deck. Or slower Slay deck, should I say. So, in that case, you'd, like, get extra copies of Doom Beast, kind of. And then you're also drawing through your deck at the same time. Thereby giving you the ability to push a lot of damage. And the more drain you have, the less you have to worry about your own health total, and the less you have to worry about blocking, which is nice. Because it is slow, though, I still don't know if that's going to be enough to justify it. But I think never underestimate burn and the ability to do face damage without having to actually attack and be blocked and whatnot. So I can see some potential there for it being a burn tool in aggressive decks. But outside of that, definitely not going to be played anywhere else. Absolutely not. So that's going to be it for this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you think of Nasus and the whole Slay fearsome package in Shurima. And please subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content in the future. I'll see you guys in the next